Yeah, I think some of the things you wanted me to visit on, I wrote a LinkedIn article, I don't know, a couple years ago, and it's the title is Why There's So Many Smart, Talented, Broke People. And and I can empathize with it because I was one, right? And my background of being a CPA and spending 7 years in the big six public accounting world and passing CPA exams and not the smartest guy, but decent brain. And then I jumped into financial services, went full time as a financial services entrepreneur. Had some initial success, but went through a very expensive and painful divorce. And my ex picked my kids are big now, but they were little then, and they were 1 month old and 3 years old, and they moved from Colorado to Atlanta. And then I through my business, I met my second, current, and last wife. She's in the next room. My second, current, and last wife, Marlo. And, she looked at me and she was like, well, he's a CPA and he's a financial advisor. And, I was getting some stage time and trophies and we were winning trips. And so what she didn't know was I was broke. Expensive divorce, just kept making stupid financial decision after stupid financial decision. I signed a 6,000 square foot office lease at the beginning of the Great Recession, based on one of the worst pieces of advice I ever got in my life from a mentor. He said, "Yeah, just get a big office space because if you build it, they will
They
come."
would come.
I was like, dumb. One of the most dumb. They all showed up, but it was all the broke dudes that couldn't help me pay their rent, right? And so I'm paying my ex-wife $5,200 a month in alimony and child support. I'm paying that crazy office lease. I quit doing the things that created my initial success. I just was sitting back and pointing and doing speeches and pontificating and leading, and um, my personal example went out the window, and so my back's totally against the wall, and I'm looking for guidance. I dive head first into personal growth and development, and reading all the gurus, and they're all like, you got to spend quiet time, and you need to be a meditator, and didn't make sense to me as a CPA, but I got $250,000 of credit card debt. So I decided to go meditate. We lived in this 1,300 square foot house in central Denver. It was built in the 50s. It was cold and dark and loud. We're on a busy street. So, Bob, you can imagine me. I decided to start meditating in February in Colorado. And so I go out in the garage and I sit in my Pathfinder, my ski parka, freezing my ass off, waiting for God to tell me what to do. And I stayed with it. And I got the voice of inspiration because we had the loud voice of our ego, right?
Hmm.
And you've heard me say before, our ego is not our amigo. And then we had the quiet voice of intuition and inspiration. And I got the clear voice because Marla and I we hadn't merged our finances yet together. Because she's like, we're recently married. She's like, hey, let's merge our finances. And I'm like, hell no, no way. We're not merging. Like, I am not letting her know what an idiot I am. And I'm like, I got it. I'm a CPA. I'm a financial advisor. I got it, honey. Um, and so she wanted to manage the money, and I held her at bay. But literally, I'm sitting in my car, and it was like, let her do it. That was the intuitive hit. Let her do it. And many years later, Mel Robbins wrote the book, the 5 second rule, and I had my own 5 second rule that I encourage people that when you get an intuitive hit, you better take some action within 5 seconds, or your ego starts killing the idea off. So the 5 second rule wasn't written, but I got up out of that car within 5 seconds and walked in the house, walked up to Marlo, and I just said, "Okay, cheers." congratulations, you're the CFO of our home and our business, and we just need to meet and I'll, give you the checkbooks and all that. So we did that for a couple hours. And then I was in the kitchen a week later doing the dishes, and I don't know if you've like ever felt the presence of your spouse, right? You just kind of feel this presence, right? And I'm
Yeah.
doing the dishes and I look up and there's Marlo, checkbooks in one hand, bank statements in the other. And she just had this horrific look on her face, like she just saw a ghost. Like she's just like, I've never seen that look. I never want to see it again. I've never seen it again. But she's like, what did you do? Like, what the hell did you do? Like, what the? You're $250,000 in credit card debt. You got like outrageous interest rates. Like, you're using credit card checks to pay the rent in the office. Like, we're underwater $4,000 or $5,000 a month. Like, this just isn't sustainable. And she's like, we need to meet. So we had the come to Marlowe meeting, which was, awesome. And and we sit down and she shares a four-letter word called a budget with me, right? And I know it's six letters, but it was a four-letter word to me. And she's like, trying to rein it in. And some lessons from that was optimism and delusion sleep in the same bed together. And dude, if you would have asked me back then, I was the most optimistic guy on the planet. But I was totally delusional. And, I'm like, no, don't look over here, honey. Like, look over here. Like, don't look. I got this big client. I got this big, I got all this activity going on over here. It's going to change. It's going to change. And I worked with the coach for 4.5 years, changed my life. But as you know, the number one skill of a high class or a high performer, a world class performer, is the ability to operate from what's called objective reality. And objective reality is the capacity to look at your results and own your results without emotion. And average performers don't like to feel bad, so they don't want to look at their results because they don't want to feel bad about themselves. And because they're not looking at the results, the results are getting worse.
Yeah.
And so, the ostrich approach to life and business doesn't work, but that was me. And we must do whatever we can to avoid delusion. And I was the most delusional freaking dude on the planet. So we had this big meeting, and dude, I still didn't get it. And it was about 6 months later, and we had to move out of that house. Now we're in a rented house, and my back was firmly against the wall because I was out of money. I was out of places to borrow. And I literally had to pay my ex-wife the $5,200 the next day. And so the only way that was going to happen was I had to somehow convince my wife, Marlo, because she had money separate from our marriage. She was good with money and she knew
Mm.
not to commingle money with the broke dude. So she had separate money
So
for
she's
her.
smart too.
She's smart, right? And I had to go convince her, my wife, to give me her money to pay my ex-wife. And everyone just left your live stream forever because they're like, where do you find these dumbasses to come speak, Chris? And so I'm driving home. I'm a pretty good sales guy. I'm working on my script, right? I'm like, I got to close this deal with my wife. And I walk in, she's in the kitchen. I walk up to her and I'm just like, honey, you are such a godsend to me. Like, I just can't believe, I mean, you're so beautiful and you're so smart and I'm just buttering her up. She sees through it. She's like, what's up? I'm like, I'm out of money. We're a team. Help me out. Hey, team, go, team. Hey, team. Like, let's go. Come on, honey. Like, come on. Come on, I'm your soulmate. You love me. Can't live without me. Help me. So she kind of nods her head. I think I'm okay. And then I turn around and walk off, and I hear this, and I look up, and there's this purse flying over my head. This big purse. Why are women's purses so freaking big? Anyway, I digress. But this big purse, her purse, comes flying over my head, lands on the ground. Stuff goes everywhere. I mean, I can't believe the stuff she had in there. There was a Madonna CD that like flew off from the 80s right across the carpet, right? And I'm like, what kind of woman throws her purse at her soulmate? A very pissed off one, and she goes over and she's not done. She picks it up, throws it again, picks it up, throws it again, three times. Her hand-eye coordination is pretty pathetic, so I was never in any real danger. She starts counting on her fingers, yelling F-bombs. What is wrong with you? You're a CPA financial advisor. Why are we in this mess? Da, 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 da. Volcanic Marlowe was no fun. And I finally was like, well, if it's so bad, why are we still together? Why are we still married? Silence. She looks at me. She heads upstairs to go figure out should she stay or should she go for the rest of the night. And then there I was, and it was um, the awakening I needed. I, I I don't know if I've ever had more clarity in my life, and I just saw like these dominoes kind of falling over in my life. And my first domino was actually my ex-wife. I saw her clearly. And I realized in that moment, because I blamed her a lot, right? Because it's easier to play the victim card than it is to take ownership, right?
Sure.
But what I realized in that moment, first time ever in my relationship with her, and it's one of the tenets I live by, and it's you don't get what you hope for, you get what you expect. You don't get what you hope for, you get what you expect. And most people hope positive, but they expect negative. I hoped that marriage was going to succeed, but I actually expected it to fail. And because of that, I blew the whole thing up. I sabotaged that thing from day one. And so, anybody that's listening, I always just ask, and I've coached hundreds, if not thousands of people on this, get quiet time with yourself and ask yourself, what are you really expecting to happen in your heart of hearts? We get the money we expect to make, we get the success that we expect to make, we get the happiness that we expect to have. And having a relationship with what you actually expect is really powerful. So the key is to really understand and be honest with yourself about what you expect, operate from objective reality, and then you do the work to grow and develop and level up your expectation in your life. That's the key, your personal growth and personal development plan. So she was the first domino. Second domino were they were my kids. They were little. They lived in Atlanta. I was too broke to go see them. And I hadn't seen them for 6 months. And where's dad? If I'm not careful, is going to turn into who is dad.
Mm.
Um, I was drinking too much. I was a freaking mess. My health, the financial stress was physically impacting Marlo. The stress was just too much, and so I realized I'm like, huh, there's kind of a common theme here, and it's me. I was the common denominator to the shit show that was my life. And wherever you've had a problem, you've always been there. And I'm like, I have to quit living in hopium. And unfortunately, that's where everybody lives today. A lot of people live there, hoping the things out here change while they fiercely insist on remaining the same. I call that rearranging the furniture on the deck of the Titanic. Doesn't matter what you do with the damn deck furniture. The boat's going down. And so in that moment, I'm like, I got to quit making excuses. I got to quit justifying, validating this thing. So I took 100% responsibility right then and there. And so Marlo and I came together the next day, and she decided to keep me. She said, um, We're not getting divorced. We're not declaring bankruptcy. We're not getting jobs. We're going to figure out our business, even though we're financial services entrepreneurs in the middle of the Great Recession. And without her, none of it happens. And what I appreciate most about her was in her moment of extreme stress and anger and pain. It would have been so easy for her, Bob, to focus on what she didn't like about me and all my flaws and exit the situation. That would have been the easy thing to do. But in that moment, she actually focused on what she loved about me. And what it caused me to do was to do the same because my sabotaging pattern was we'd hit some bumps in the road. I'd focus on the negative and I'd just be like, well, I just need to go exit and go find something that's easier. And no, so we focused on what we loved about each other. And we coach a lot of couples, but most couples that come to us, they have the same problem. And the preeminent law in personal growth and development is the law of growth, and it's what you focus on expands. And so most couples that we meet, their challenges are they're not focusing on the good things of each other. And so she did that and she said, well, we're going to figure this out. We have access to wealthy mentors. She's like, I'm going to go interview them. And she spent 2.5 years interviewing them. I'm going to figure out, what they do around money. And they had wealth in all areas of their life, not just money. How they think, what they do. Our first book, Couples Money, came from that. She's like, I'm going to come back from those interviews. We're going to apply this stuff to our lives. And she's kind of like, what are you going to do, jackass? And I'm like, well, I'm going to figure out how this keeps creating broke. And I knew I had to go to work on my money beliefs. And I told her, I'm not interested in changing. I'm committed. She's like, what do you mean? Because as you know, Bob, most people are interested in a great life.
Sure.
And one of the worst things that's happening in society today around the topic of success, and social media exacerbates it, is the belief that you can get something for nothing. And so the problem is when you are interested and you hit that first level of resistance that you got to bust through, because how do you develop a muscle? You introduce resistance to the muscle, right? But if you're just interested, you'll bounce off, you'll take a chicken exit, you'll go on to the next thing. My dad did this his whole life. I was beginning to do it. But when you're committed, you will find a way. And I said, I'm committed. She's like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, how an Olympic athlete treats their sport? Is there any question that they're committed? They're committed. I'm like, I'm all in. She's like, so what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to be up early in the morning. Some people go to the gym and work out. We eat every day. We hopefully shower. We brush our teeth. I'm like, I'm going to go to the mental gym every single day. And the mental gym is just this morning uninterrupted time of praying, reading my Bible, reading good books, journaling, visualizing, whatever it is, 30 minutes, hour, sometimes longer. But I'm going to go to that gym every single day. I'm going to work on discouragement. Nothing kills dreams more than nothing kills more dreams than discouragement. And so encouragement's like a gas tank. And at the end of the day, you could be a little discouraged, or sometimes you can wake up in the morning and be discouraged. So for me, I'm not going to leave the house or jump on my first Zoom meeting or whatever unless I'm, encouraged. And so it's my job to fill the encouragement gas tank every morning. And so, and the power of that is, you do it every day. And I've been, in that routine for, whatever that is now, 17 years. Every single day you can't help but grow. And the compounding of that over time is jaw dropping. And so I think it's a Mel Robbins quote. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened over time. And we had a jaw-dropping financial transformation and have had some major, major, major blessings and it's getting better all the time. So anyway,